Hi, this is Chris Cheetham-West, and I want to talk about today on balancing relationships with your career. So, in my experience, it can be challenging at sometimes, but you can still make it work. So, in my case, I met my wife 2012. So it was March 2012. And even then, we had already graduated college school. We were in our careers. She was a teacher and I was a marketing specialist. And we then had to balance, how can we go on dates? How can we get to know each other while we're busy in our careers? Because we were the type of people where we would work at the job, but also we would work at home. So that actually was a little bit like beneficial because we were both kind of working, but we still had to have that balance of, okay, when are we going to go on dates? Which I'll say we'll go on dates on Fridays and Saturdays, but we still had to have that balance. But at least we were working together when we were working sometimes in the evenings. So that helped us out to understand how to really build together. Because these days they say that you want to at least meet somebody that you can build with. So that's what I found in my wife. But things changed when I started a business, because when I started a business in 2014, that's when I started traveling more often. That was before we even got married. So I would say I was out of town a couple times a month, and I would go out for a week at a time. So 2 weeks straight, 1 week straight, or 1 week straight, come home in the weekends, get back on the road. It was definitely a challenge at some time because we went from going to see each other every day to all of a sudden now we're seeing each other once a week because I'm out of town. So that was a challenge we had to work through. We always discussed, well, if we were going to have a kid one day, what are we going to do? I don't want to be on the road too much. So that's things that we discussed. So one way to really help the balancing out is to just have those conversations, like how the future is going to look. How's the future going to look 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if you're currently busy, or you might be planning, we might want to have kids. So how is that going to look down the line when we have kids? How's that going to look like when maybe we're married? So those are all the things we discussed early on. And we had our first kid in, I'll say, 2 years ago, actually. So he's going to be 3 this year in June. And so even that was a big change. But before we had him, I kind of started working more online, more remotely, instead of going out to speaking events in person, one day at a time, 2 days at a time, 3 times at a time, and all of a sudden I'm on the road for 2 weeks straight. Now it's more so a few times a month, but it's spread out. So I feel like in many careers, there's always a way that you can make it work. For me, I was able to make it work because with my business, you can do it online and you can do virtual, and you can always limit the days that you're going out. You don't have to be out Monday through Friday if you don't want to. You could just raise your fee and you get booked a little bit less, but you get to have that balance. So I feel like there's always a way to balance that in the career. And even with her, she was able to become an assistant principal right now, and that's a balance for her. So what we do is we make sure on the Saturdays we spend time together. We don't really do any work. Sundays we probably do some work, but we still spend that time, even Friday evenings, Saturdays. So I think one of the major ways to really help with the balance is dedicating time for each other. Kids or no kids, dedicating your time, that's going to help really balance. And it's helped me be a better father because I didn't know what to expect when I became a father, but I did realize it really helped me be more productive because now I know that, well, I'm going to take him to daycare or we need to spend this time together. So it's making me more productive. It's making sure that, well, maybe I need to wake up earlier to get enough hours in the day done working on my business. So those are all the things that I started to consider when we were in a relationship. So remember, 1 is choosing a dedicated time to spend with each other. 2 is thinking about the future, thinking about how are things going to look. Maybe you're super busy right now, and maybe you plan on making those changes later on. And then 3, just making sure that you are comfortable. Everything works for different people, but figure out what works for your family specifically. And tune in for more tips on balancing relationships in career and business.